I've been away from YouTube for a little bit, and putting off making videos that are any good for even longer. And I do apologise. In light of this, I figured I'd take a little time here to give everyone just a little glimpse into what's been happening with me, what I'm working on. I've actually already beaten Brotato with every base game character at Danger 5, so we'll be playing around with some modded characters today. We're skipping the Vampire Man here because his special power requires him to press the spacebar, and tragically, there doesn't appear to be one on my PS4 controller. We'll instead be playing with the Vagabond Swordsman. Plus speed is always fine, and attack speed is always a good start even without these little incentives. Starting with a big minus to damage is rough, but it's way offset by the upside of gaining free temporary health just for running around a bit. This is a huge bonus, and the character seems very strong overall. For a starting weapon, well, the sword seems like a no-brainer, thematically and in terms of potential output. Though I'm always partial to an ethereal weapon, and I'd go with the Thief Dagger every time if I wasn't starting at a damage deficit. Those things are dang handy. So it's it's essentially vampire survivors, but like with a potato. It doesn't even look that much like a potato. Interestingly, if you're wondering where friend of the show Andy Cool channel has gotten off to, it's a similar story. I've also been going pretty hard on retro achievements recently. I've mostly been playing the Katamaris along with Ratchet & Clank 2 and 3. Boy are those games fun to revisit. Just absolute classics, the lot of them. I'm trying to get good at Dr. Mario too. You know, it doesn't look like much, but those later stages, they're rough, man. I've also played a couple of other games. You can also catch me streaming to twitch.tv on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 PM UK time. I have a schedule now. So yeah, it's just one of those lazy summers. Provided you're not a pirate. Seems like as soon as we get back in, there's a new thing to shoot or knock over or set on fire. Still, there's enough time for some minor shuffling of staff and resources until we head off to Japan. We're focusing on all the rescued / kidnapped / found gals, getting them into the roster. It's not urgent enough to divert the brainers away from party planning. This building be used by them big factions to spy on the local people, so they can come up with some new taxes or other villainy. The factions might be big, but the tower be small. So let's get to work. Nay, Cap'n. We just need to find a way to defeat or fool the robotic guard. Beware of the curse of the machine. Shouldn't be out for long at least. Slightly odd missions, these watchtowers. Very, very easy ones though. Out in the country, a tower looms, watching the world go by. The staff are academics, not fighters, and the ominous mentions of a robot guard are referring to a terrain feature, not an enemy. There's maybe a slightly higher than 50-50 chance one of the researchers would spawn outside of the tower, prowling the woods with some form of tiny handgun, the kind that's only powerful enough to sort of annoy a mutant gal. At night, they'd be almost blind on top of that. It would be very easy to just bop them on the head and keep moving. The next hurdle would be the robot guard. I love the robot guard. I like looking at him. In another world, we would have been friends, but he always spawns blocking the door to the dang tower, and the only way to make him leave is via application of sledgehammer. We'd stack up around the door first, of course. As soon as he's gone, the door is open, so we'd want to be ready to breach and clear. The Academy researchers are weaker than nurses and tend to be even worse equipped. Although their stuff technically deals lethal rather than stun damage, should it actually deal any damage at all? The only thing is they're worth a pretty dang good ransom, so you're incentivized to not just blast them. Unless they're blocking the lift, which is an unforced error on their part. I say they did it to themselves. The rest are captured in short order. Would be captured in short order? I'm not sure what tense we're in. The mission's over now, and the captives are worth $35,000 apiece. Shame about the one lady who blocked the lift, but there's genuinely no way to move them without blasting. We could have given up on the upper floors until next turn, but that gives them the opportunity to come out shooting. Or alternatively, just keep standing on the lift and annoying me. At any rate, that's how those tend to go. We'll probably not be seeing another unless it's a particularly strange one. Sometimes missions in this mod will throw you a weird curveball, and I appreciate that. A shipwreck party, lost somewhere in this area, has broadcast its position on an open frequency. Let's find them and teach them a practical lesson about what can happen if you do something like that. Dang, we're not even back yet. It takes 2 hours for the airbus to recharge. We use that time to reorganize. First, Nicole's out. Big Convict is feeling much better. Honestly, she never understood what all the fuss was about after she was shot. Secondly, I go into the stores and wiggle even more garbage onto the craft. This is me rounding out the loadout with some of the gear the bandits we've been beating up have dropped. None of it's as substantial as the crud the humanists left behind, but we're currently lacking pistol-sized weapons that aren't flintlocks on the active squad. I think people underestimate how good pistols tend to be in XCOM. They're light, fit on your belt, don't require freehand, take very few time units to fire, and often have solid accuracy at close-ish ranges. All this is at the cost of not doing a whole lot of damage, which, against unarmoured units, isn't too much of a detriment. I say all this knowing that the pistols we currently have available to us are absolute trash, but we found them on random dead guys and you get what you pay for. The beacon's still active when we're done. The message, transmitted across all the emergency frequencies they could think of, tells the tale of a small craft and its crew brought down by a freak bolt of lightning. The instruments thoroughly fried and the pilot injured. It's a small miracle they managed to land in one piece. And for their trouble, they found themselves stranded in a desert. Nevertheless, their troubles are only just beginning. I recorded like 30 minutes of this just for that bit at the start. The message doesn't say who they are exactly. I think a distress beacon mission can be one of a few things. Normally if you get one of these really early though, it tends to be the Academy again. In this instance, it is. Angry black clouds continue to loom over the crash site, smothering the moon. The airbus hits turbulence a good ways out, but the gals have no fear. If you can't ride a storm, you shouldn't be in the air. They swoop in, low over the dunes. Maybe their quarry see them coming in, maybe not. Either way, it's one of their craft. Nobody's gonna know things amiss until the shooting starts. Thunder rings out as the doors open. The air's bone dry and thick with energy. We've gone for a fairly serious loadout here, leaving behind anything particularly scarce, but otherwise coming out prepared for a rumble. The call mentioned there might be a few of them out there. The map itself offers a couple of problems. Firstly, there's not a lot in it, as it is a desert. The best we can do for cover are the gently sloping dunes and the weird little cacti. If, for example, there was something with night vision lurking out there, this would be a whole hassle. The second problem is that it's too hot, as it is a desert. This is an environmental hazard that will affect us at the beginning of each turn, and our opponents never. Heat deals a small amount of stun damage and makes you generate less energy per round, scaling on both counts to the heat resistance of your armor. I normally don't check if there's going to be a hazard beforehand, and I'm surprised and annoyed whenever I see one, as happened here. We've not really got anything with enough insulating layers on it to be a problem just yet though the gals in jackets will be suffering a little. On turn 2, lightning strikes once more. A sudden burst of light and sound, dredging a hostile silhouette out of the shadows. Looks like an Academy researcher, armed with a mean-looking shovel. Convict is eager to show the squad the bullet in her hasn't slowed her down. Apparently there was also a second Academy researcher. What are they doing out here? Digging for treasure? My default night fighting strategy in a situation where I don't have electro flares is to dispel the darkness by lighting the entire battlefield on fire. There don't look to be any more of them right by us. Panther finishes the last of them. People often ask me, through it, how well does sand burn? My answer? You'd be surprised. Another researcher sees the flames and advances cautiously towards them. In the dark, with the wind whipping sand every which way and the thunder masking the sounds, might not even know the peril they're in yet. Panther angles to teach him a lesson, just so there's no ambiguity. Unfortunately, these aren't perfect conditions for aiming in, either. Kara and Kez continue to explore. Veteran players will realise there's a good reason why I shouldn't be doing the things that I'm doing right now. Actually, as a journeyman with a little experience, I also know I shouldn't be doing this. I can't remember if I was trying to replicate that new player feeling, or maybe I just wanted some drama. Maybe it was just late. I remember staying up really late to play this. Whatever's the case, we'll clue you in when it becomes relevant. I wouldn't worry. It'll be fine. The wind picks up, and for a few brief moments, in a wall of stinging sand, visibility drops to about 5 feet. The wounded researcher tries to run, but ends up going in circles. Lightning cracks again. Close, scorching the very earth in its wake. Through the haze, it's just a hot white glow, like an onlooking spectre. The earth trembles, but we'll be fine, if you can't ride a storm. Panther tries to reacquire her target, but only wings them once again, firing vaguely in the direction she remembered them being. The rest of the squad power on through the storm, their tough mutant skin resistant to the pain. Suddenly... yeah, that's what I was worrying about. Bolts of green fire, cutting through the stinging, yellow-tinted static. I believe Convict has just been shot again. These little fuckers! So, when you're up against a big party from the academy, it's not just nurses and researchers with shovels you have to worry about. They'll always have a drone with them, and despite having pretty awful stats, these things are a total nuisance. They're armoured well enough to deflect pistol rounds if you're unlucky, though they have very little health if anything gets through. They fly, which makes them hard to stab, and they don't suffer a penalty from firing in melee the way people do. The gun's not very powerful, but it is a laser, so it can light you on fire, and they also see in the dark. If we were smart, we'd have been sticking closely to cover the whole approach, knowing we were observed. We got lucky to not come off worse here. All that said, drones can be very consistently dealt with through the application of heavy shotgun. With the drone out of the way, there's one more thing that could cause us a real problem. It's not this nurse. Now you I don't know. I would like to take you home though. Oh dear, it's the thing. They're up there, on the grassy knoll. Kara chucks in a grenade and the rest of the squad continue their march. We have to put the Explorer down, considering the precarious spot Kez is in. The blast throws up a gout of sand and flame. Apparently, if the shooter wasn't in it, they were close enough to be having a bad time. We don't take any fire this round. Alright, Academy Medic. These have better stats than nurses and genuinely decent armor. From the front, they're going to be proof against most bullet weapons. You really do want to rush them down with melee, though that's pretty hard to do in a desert. They'll always be equipped with properly dangerous gear too. That laser pistol they've got, that's about the scariest thing we're going to see outside a terror mission for the whole early game. Now, these ladies don't actually have night vision. I believe what happened was the drone can spot for other units, and that spot lingers a few turns. This explains why all the shots went wide too. They were fired with halved accuracy. You know, can I just... Spotter Sniper AI is a thing that got added into Extended, and it is real bad. I understand the problem it's trying to solve. That being the AI is dumb and bad, and giving them a little bit more information makes some of their choices just a bit less silly. Letting them know where they just got shot from and stuff, that's fine by me. It's the multi-turn spots that I think are way too gamey. Trying to keep track of which enemies make your units inexplicably and without warning visible to everyone, and how many turns that lasts for. And this is information you can only get by going through the moddingquestions.ini files. And I would argue this is pertinent information. Mechanically, this shit sucks, and fluff-wise, it doesn't make any sense. And if you abuse it too much, you get a game where every battle is guaranteed to be a back-and-forth slog, where cover and strategy don't really matter in the face of grenades being lobbed over buildings. So the game's mostly played in the workshop and the research tree, and that mod is called the XCOM files. Anyway, we've got the lady pinned down now. And while bullets are likely to just bounce off her, she does have one glaring weakness. She's not wearing a helmet. The first poison gas grenade is a ways off, so we throw another to be safe. They do the trick. Those things are real nasty, by the way. They do health damage, stun damage, and reduce the amount of TUs you're generating each turn. I'm not sure if the smoke they make is bad, or if it's just smoke. I think the latter? The little ghost here means the lady's in overstun. She has so much more stun damage than health, it's being converted to regular damage. Luckily, the last enemy's just blundered out of the smoke. And that's that. Just the 8 enemies today, half of which were semi-armed researchers. Definitely the potential for issues there though. Maybe even a minor incident. Wherever their craft touched down, it must be buried under 10 feet of sand right now. But we take the Academy medic back with us as a trophy. Her first question upon waking is just what the hell we were thinking jumping him in the middle of a storm like that. It's a big question. We know something she doesn't. Since man has existed, it's been trying to answer a question. How two things can look completely similar, and yet one can be alive while the other is dead. The answer we now know is a system of bioelectricity animating neurotransmitters. Without that, we are inert. The pirates believe in the ephemeral concept of the soul, but a soul must be earned. To be free is to live. To slave away under the major factions is to stagnate and rot, metaphysically. To give up one's immortal essence. This is why no pirate fears a storm. To be one of us is to have a soul, and that soul is made of lightning. Dinner's ready. Wound timers are going to be significantly lower now. We're down to 2 weeks on Hoodlum, and Convict's just going to be out again for the 4 days. That's how long it takes her to eat a big sandwich. Sometimes, pirates will send you a helpful slur out of the blue, for morale. Thanks for that. Oh dear, definitely unregistered hypercam time. Aye, 'twas some fun we had, celebrating our new... Okay, hang on. Aye, 'twas some fun we had, celebrating our newfound identity. Honestly, I don't remember much of it, but if it was any more wild, I guess the word orgy would be more fitting. Anyway, I heard our excesses already became famous in the area, which will likely help us with impressing certain groups. 250 points awarded. Look, as long as everyone's happy. Castaway gals are a little more expensive to recruit than young Ubers, and they must be bribed with snacks, alcohol, bandages, and rocks. In this instance, we're short on Soylent, but we can easily pop down the store and get some. Speaking of the young Ubers... True Voltage, Stubborn Amelia, Copper Pipe, and Charming Cat have joined the roster. These are the young Ubers from episode 4, Sorry Player, and all of the castaway gals we had lying around from Johan. That's all for now, I reckon. I think we had another one in there somewhere, but she got used up from the initial research. Not sure what the lore implications of this are. Her CV just wasn't quite there, I guess. She failed the interview. Had to let go. All of these ladies are up for grabs, by the way, if you want to name someone. We've already got Buck, as suggested by Whiskey Brown. This is an in-joke that I am not in on, and it keeps coming up. Browncoat Garrus at CV33 Games also suggested we adopt a Rob Wilson after the incident. There was some talk in the Discord about how Rob's choice of footwear might imply he left the rap scene to become a cool lesbian. So this checks out. To remain, although I kind of like Copper Pipe a lot as a name. She's just very passionate about plumbing. And the month comes to a close. Did y'all remember this was just the first month? It did take substantially longer than that in real time. And with the end of this episode, we reach the conclusion of the 3-hour block of gameplay footage I recorded one night, half a year ago. I guess that means I can update the mod now? We'll try and do smaller chunks from here on out, stay a bit more current. Shout out to the one angry boy who got mad at me for playing a day-old version on the very first episode though. What a champ. Most of y'all have been incredible, in contrast. The algorithm does not like me anymore, and the series gets a lot less views than it used to, but it is by far my favourite to make out of everything. I like that I can get real weird with it, so we are going to be here a minute. Right now, we're 3 hours into the game, in about 3 hours of video. I do cut out a lot, but then I add a lot back in too, and the net result is an even ratio that'll see us done by episode 200, which should be in about 16 or 17 years. We'll probably have to incorporate time condensing measures at some point, skipping boring and repeat missions, maybe a time jump here or there, but I'm happy to just be meandering away over here. I'd argue the videos aren't so much about the game anymore anyway, as much as they are just whatever's on my mind at the time. I am sorry about disappearing for long stretches though. I kinda just wibble around doing whatever nonsense hobby strikes my fancy that day. If you can't find me on YouTube, I am quite consistently on Twitch though. I could upload more of the VODs here, but when I do that, I worry I'm annoying everyone. In terms of the campaign state, I do want to say I've never seen a run look as good as this one coming out of the first month. Our score was so obscene, it got us $1 million in ill-gotten gains on top of our regular income, so the girls are up to their eyeballs in filthy lucre. All that, and nobody's even dead yet. Well, nobody important. Sorry, Steph. It's a great stat, but it's still very early days, and I do have a history of not finishing XCOM mods. We'll see. At any rate, I can promise I'll be out here making silly videos for the foreseeable future. Fruity is real. Fuck.